Steven, you're still one of those normie brand people who still believes in the concept of heaven. In your head, when you think of the afterlife and what would make your good place as good as possible, what's got to be there? Because I want to open by saying, even as a kid who went to church and was taught how great heaven was going to be, I thought church was so boring. So in my little kid head, I was like, heaven's going to suck.
You were already pessimistic at that point. You're like, wow,
be a bunch of church people singing songs all the time. I'd rather like sleep.
And you grew up in white church, so the people were old and the songs were really boring.
Well, yes, but it was like contemporary white church.
Oh,
so
jeans and flip-flops.
The songs were really boring, played by a full band that was volume turned down as low as humanly possible.
Love it. Love hearing those same three chords over and over again.
If we're stepping away from the traditional get in line and ask Jesus to fill your bowl of porridge that we were taught heaven would be growing up, what's the good place like for you? What are you hoping is there to reward a life well lived by Stephen Baker?
I think I'd like a lot of music. I think
contemporary white church music specifically?
Exactly. I want access to all the music. But
okay. So Spotify. You want Spotify.
I really want a Spotify premium account. Gotta have my YouTube premium. Can't have ads, but I gotta see what my, YouTube things I watch are up to. Let's see. It'd be nice if my significant other's also dead at that point.
Right.
If she's there, that'd be cool.
Or if when you die, it's kind of like the time knife. So whether your significant other lives another 50 years after you die, they're there with you.
That's a baller idea, Zach. I'll take that. I'll put that on my plate. I'll grab a piece of that roll, rip it in half.
Because how can it be heaven, paradise, if you have to wait to see the person you most want to spend all that time with?
Exactly.
You just get to.
And also, I think it'd still be fun to have some fire-ass weed up there, too.
Nice. So basically you want the stuff that you have and do here.
Yeah.
Just
the things that make me the happiest here, I would like to do there forever.
I've always thought that I want a really, really nice home theater setup with the comfiest chair possible.
Yeah.
Instantly, whatever snack or beverage or marijuana that comes to your mind, as soon as you think of it, it's there.
You've got access to Letterboxd's top 100.
Well, more than that, it's got to be like a Netflix type service that just has every piece of recorded media ever, including like TV, books, movies, music, just all recorded media, including that comes out after I die, like all of human history recorded media.
Yeah.
That's what I need.
Speaking of recorded media, Zach, we don't talk music a ton on this show, but...
Well, here, let's introduce the show, and then we can talk about some music if you want to talk about some music, okay?
I do. I wanna.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Into the Time Knife, a Good Place Rewatch podcast. We're here to celebrate a job well done recapping all of Season 1 with the round table. Even though it's just the two of us, we can still sit, and our table's just kind of, we're just kind of facing each other. It's still a round table in spirit, sure. And I think since we do this show weekly and we're not going to stop doing it weekly, I like to take a pause between seasons before we just dive into season 2 to reflect on how fun and how insightful and how entertaining going through the first season of this amazing show.
We got to grab a towel and wipe it off our tummy before the next round, Zach.
Right, I need Steven to waddle over to the bathroom and get me a wet wipe to clean this smut off of myself before we move into season 2, episode 1 of The Good Place. Welcome to the show, everybody. I'm Zach.
I'm Steven.
And we're going to start off the program, of course, as always, by shouting out our $10 and up patrons over at patreon.com/can'tdisappointpodcast. Those people are Danny M. Lugo, Mary Baker Budisa, Brian Thurman, and Autumn Marsh. We appreciate those people. We respect those people. Wet wipes to the lot of them.
Yeah, take as many as you want. Take 2.
We always keep them on deck. We've got plenty.
Yeah.
I've
got a pocket full of wet wipes at any given moment, Zach.
You know the drill. Patreon helps keep the lights on around here, and it's a good time because we're about to start on 420 our next weekly Patreon exclusive podcast, The Basement, where we'll be recapping what, Steven?
We're going to be going through, starting with that 70s show.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to go through the decade shows all the way up to the newest iteration, that 90s show.
Can't wait. It's going to be a hazy circle-like experience. It's going to be a lot of fun. So patreon.com/can't disappoint podcast gets you that, gets you this show a week early every week, gets you our live pre-show that we do every time we record this podcast, and much more. And also something you can get on Patreon, but starting on 420, you'll be able to start listening to, as a free listener, our new weekly Cowboy Bebop rewatch podcast, Brokeback Bebop, starts on 420 wherever you get your podcasts and on our YouTube channel. It's a really fun podcast. It's super outrageous. It's our... How would you describe Brokeback Bebop?
You know, it's like when you're up at 3 a.m., and you just, chugged like 4 Red Bull, and you really can't sleep, but you just got to get something out of your system, Sure. It's like that, but you wrap it up in like a nice warm corn tortilla and just cover it in flavorful sauce. And that's what Brokeback Bebop is like. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, go and take a lick.
That flavorful sauce, Brokeback Bebop, coming out weekly starting 420. Wherever you get your podcast, and patreon.com/can't disappoint podcast gets you everything and helps you support us. But that's enough shilling. Steven wants to talk about some music, everybody.
Hey,
Steven,
everybody, listen up.
The concept of music. The ball is in your court. Let's hear it.
So, music, to me...
Pro or con?
Pro. Overall. You'd be surprised, though. I have had students that kind of like, well, I don't like music, so I don't want to dance. I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you? How do you not like music? That's just not a possible thing. But I don't talk about new music that comes out very often on this show, but I feel the need to mention... Zach, have you ever listened to either JPEG Mafia or Danny Brown?
I'm more familiar with Danny Brown, but I'm not crazy familiar with either of their music. I know who they are, for sure.
Yeah, they both super talented, both really weird. They just put out a collab album called Scarin' the Hose, which is a joke on how, you can't play their music around the hose or you'll get none because they're not going to be into that sort of thing. It's very abrasive sometimes. It's very not mainstream hip-hop, so, people that are like, I only listen to regular rap. I don't know who sounds like that, but... they wouldn't like it. But incredible album.
My favorite
really
rapper is Drake. This scares me.
But it's crazy. JPEG Mafia did all the production on it, and it's really unique
cool.
and some of the most creative production I've heard in a long time. Really fun, high energy stuff. So great album. Check it out.
I've been back to my movie crawl, I guess, just going grind. But not quite watching Oscar bait anymore. I watched all the Scream movies because I wanted to see Scream 6, which I just saw last night. I had only ever seen the first 2, and I hadn't seen the second one onward in a long time.
Worst to best.
Worst to best. Worst, Scream 3, then Scream 2, then Scream 4, then Scream 5, or Scream 2022, then Scream 6, then Scream.
Nice. That's fair.
But by the time I got to 4 and 5, we watched all of these in rapid succession, and even though they all have like different twists and turns that you really have to keep up with, they are kind of repetitive, and they all kind of became one sludge by the end of it. So 4 and 5 are really hazy.
That's fair.
But I enjoyed them, and I also saw the Super Mario Brothers movie. I've loved Mario my whole life, and the movie was just about as fine as it could have possibly been. It wasn't a disaster, which I think is a pretty big win for the concept of a Mario movie.
How about that banger track by Jack Black, Peaches? That one speak to you?
I hated that part. Truly hated it, because I really liked Jack Black as Bowser. He was probably my favorite voice cast performance, because he put a voice on. It wasn't just pure Jack Black. Talking. And then that section, it's such a short movie. It kind of felt like a waste of 2 or 3 minutes of the movie, and the song's not really that funny, and all of a sudden he's full on Jack Black. I don't know. I could have done without it.
So not having seen the movie, but having heard parts of the song.
The track Peaches.
I did not think that it was going to be a part of the movie. I was
it's in it twice. You hear it twice.
Twice? Okay.
Twice. Two times.
Because it sounded like a Jack Black song, not a Bowser song.
Yes, agreed.
Grammy Award winner, Jack Black.
It really sounds like the type of thing that like Jack Black was fucking around in the studio and like wrote that, and they were like, "We don't have a story for this movie. We can have 3 minutes of you doing that 2 separate times. Sure, keep it up. Say peaches as many times as possible. Don't write lyrics for this about to make $1 billion film."
Yeah.
Well, that's what we're going to talk about. Let's dive into The Good Place one more time.
Do it.
Season 1 of The Good Place. We have talked a couple times being a little hesitant to revisit the first season because you can't watch it without thinking of what comes after it. So now that we're to what comes after it, how do you feel about having revisited the first season? Did it live up to expectations? Was it
Absolutely,
even a little
I think
better than you thought it was?
So I've rewatched the show in the last year or so.
Okay.
And so I've seen the first season semi-recently.
Sure.
Actually, it probably was about a year ago whenever you watched the show. But every time you watch the first season, it gets better to me. Because, yeah, some of the mystery is gone. The initial shock at the end of the first season isn't the same as it once was, but you get to appreciate so much more the details and I'm sure there's even a whole crap ton of stuff that I missed even this time going through that were hints and clues. And I think a show like that is so special because
you get to play a detective.
Yeah, and it'd be very easy for a show like this to not have high rewatch value because there's such a major twist that changes the course. But even when you know what's coming, it's delivered so well that I was just as excited as the first, 2 times that I watched it.
Absolutely. And so many shows kind of biff their big twist or biff the ending to where even if you loved what came before it, it's forever flavored by the disappointment that you know is coming. And even with this show that took so many daring choices, daring paths of storytelling all throughout its show, and knowing how the show ends and knowing that it absolutely sticks the landing, it makes it more fun to watch season 1, which can feel a little meandering and time wasty sometimes. That makes those episodes more fun than they were the first time they came out because the show is purposefully wasting time because these people are meant to be tortured by this for 1,000 years. Yeah. So you've got to feel that so it really earns it when they break that cycle, which reflavors the entire season into being something so much more fun and so much more investing because you can be a detective. You can investigate through the show and notice a different thing every time. Or like Steven mentioned a lot in spoiler talk, watching the season from the perspective that all the other neighbors are annoying, overperforming demons, it makes you can watch the whole show just focusing on that, or you can watch the whole show just focusing on Michael, or it does not take away the effect of the first season as a whole, knowing the big twist that does change everything at all.
Yeah,
it's a great season. And I want to start off our discussion, our podcast, by doing something that we do every week on the show, but we haven't done to this effect before, to try to have Steven recap the entire first season of The Good Place in one of my favorite segments that we do here every week. And this week, with a special name, we're going to find out, did Steven retain the season this week?
Retain the season this week.
If you're new to the show, typically Steven has 20 seconds to recap the episode of The Good Place that we're recapping to give you a refresher course on what happened in that episode. And after he does it, I give him a grade to let him know how well I think he did it, how well he did on my grading scale, which is tough. It can be a little strict sometimes.
It's stiff and hard.
Is it? It's stiff
and rigid.
It's stiff and rigid, sure. Jagged, almost.
Yeah, jagged. That's the word I wanted to say.
Today, Steven has a new task for the first time on any of these podcasts. You're going to recap the entire season, and I think it's only fair if you would like to give you 30 seconds.
I think 30 seconds will help me. Any more than that would be pandering, and I don't take a handout.
It's
but
13
30 seconds
episodes.
Is fair.
I want to see how much you can fit in 30 seconds.
I've been contemplating how to approach this, and I think I'm just going to go and let my heart run wild. I could use my brain and try and be clever, but I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to use my brain. I'm going to use only parts from the nips down.
Okay, well, I'm interested. Are you ready?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. 30 seconds on the clock. On go.
Back popped. get ready to rock and roll, do some calisthenics, make sure that everything's flowing how it needs to.
The countdown begins now. 3, 2, 1, go.
Eleanor's dead, and she's in the good place, which is wonderful. She meets people like Chidi that teach her about ethics because she's not really supposed to be there. But plot twist, they're all in the bad place. It was all a joke. Jason Mendoza is there because he was a DJ in Florida. Tahani's selfish, and Michael planned it all. They go through different adventures to make them grow as people and grow in their bonds as friendship, and that's how they ultimately figure out that they're in the bad place because they have to suffer through torturing each other. What's going to happen next? Who knows? Time.
Stop.
I said time. That's because, remember, long ago we established that if I ever finished before...
Sure, that it could do you well.
It could help me.
But I think you could have filled the time.
Sure, I just had no idea what to say.
I am of two minds of what you just did. As someone who has recapped all of this with you, and an audience that has likely listened to us recap all of it so far, I think you did a good job.
Thank you.
From the perspective of, if I hadn't seen any of The Good Place before, and you just yelled that at me, the first thing I thought was like, well, who's Michael? When you were like, Michael planned it all. I was like, well, who's that? I think you did good, but I think
could I offer a response to that?
You've never asked me before.
The prompt was, did Steven
retain the season?
Not, can Steven explain the season to someone who's never seen the show?
That's true, but I don't think that argument works too much because it was, did Steven retain the season, and you couldn't fill 30 seconds with things that you remembered.
Couldn't or chose not to?
Well, I think if we...
And I cannot be held accountable for anything said after the timer was stopped, Zachary.
I think if Rosalind took the track back a little bit, you did say, I didn't know what else to say,
Rosie,
so
baby,
I
can
stopped.
you run that back for us?
So since you're arguing against yourself, trying to help yourself, I was going to give you a B+. I'll stick with a B+.
You know what, Zach? Thank you very much. I did a little better than I thought I would.
Sure.
I think 30 seconds is just too much for me. I can't last that long. Give me a solid 20 and I'm good.
Yeah. When you blow your load at second 22, the other 8 seconds just sludge through.
It's just a lot of awkward silence. I keep saying time.
You did fine. I think you should be proud of yourself. The next thing we're going to do as we wrap up season 1 is see if we can redeem ourselves when it comes to trivia just a little bit. I went through painstakingly all of the questions I've been asking you in trivia all season and selected a variety of not one question per episode, but like each episode has one question. I've got 9 questions from throughout the season, and I just want to see what you remember and what I remember and what the audience remembers. So we're going to take a trip down memory lane and revisit some trivia questions that you may or may not have gotten right the first time and see how you're doing.
Yeah, I kind of bounced around and grabbed questions that were not like, what color glove did this person? You know, I tried not to do any of those.
Exactly.
So I did ones that, you know, if you were really a fan, you would know.
A fan of the show or a fan of us? The show.
Either.
What was that noise you just made? You went, ah? Okay, I'll go first. My first question for you. What meds did Eleanor help Hawk in life?
They were fake pills for old people.
We're looking for a brand name. We're looking for a brand name. Yes.
Oh, I don't have the brand name.
This would be from the first episode.
Okay. I'm gonna give a guess.
You said I don't know, so I took that as a end.
Derpatrol.
Derpatrol. No. It was Nasopro and Nasopro Silver.
For the oldies.
Not off to a good start.
What is the name of Chidi's manuscript?
You see, this is one of the questions that I thought I would maybe pick because I had this question also, and then I respect you as a person, so I didn't want to do something that hard.
Well, that's the difference between you and me, Zach.
So let me just say what I say, and then you can correct me afterwards.
Yeah, of course. Go for it. I'm not expecting you to get the whole thing. If you get a big chunk of it, I'll give it to you. Something like to the tune of a la akin to
Who We Are and Who We Are Not, a treatise on the modern something or other and how we do some things until Michael cuts me off.
You got the first part of it, which
was
is
that
good.
Right? Is it Who We Are and Who We Are Not?
It is Who We Are and Who We Are Not. Practical ethics and their application in the modern world, a treatise on the blank. So you got modern, you got treatise, you got the first line. That's
not
at least
bad.
half credit. Yeah.
Not bad.
Would have loved
Rosalind,
to hear the word ethics,
half.
but that's
I
okay.
got half.
Yeah, make that a 0.5er.
Let's see if you remember this one. What sporting team does Janet say all former members of are in the bad place? This is an early episode.
All members of the Detroit Pistons?
No, but that's not a bad guess. It's the Portland Trailblazers.
Couldn't remember which NBA
0
team.
for 2.
Mm-hmm.
I've got half for
You got
1.
half of one. What season of Friends does Sad Michael feel like?
9.
Ooh, you're really close. It's
8.
Mm-hmm.
Putting Joey and Rachel together, even though there's no reason for it. I remember that moment.
Exactly.
What does Camilla have her gold medal in? Tahani's sister Camilla has a gold medal.
Is it archery?
It is.
Heyo.
1 for 3.
I've also got a Camilla question. How much money did Tahani's parents leave Camilla?
Ooh.
It's a lot of dollars. Well, it's not in dollars. It's in pounds.
100 million.
Ooh, you're not.
That was just a guess.
You're in the right range. It's 68 million pounds.
Okay.
Which has got to be at least like 75 million USD.
When rebooting Janet, what is Michael's passcode?
Password?
No, it's a code. Passcode.
How many digits?
4.
0003?
No,
1.
it's 0000, which is his birth year.
Ah, nice. That's great. Describe plurigloss.
Oh, no. No, I can't. I remember them saying that word, but there's nothing other than the word that it sparks in me.
It's the color of when a soldier comes home from war and sees his dog for the first time.
Yes. That was not in my memory, but I remember now.
You got that one right, I believe, and we actually did it.
Well, yeah, because if I had just watched the episode, I'd probably remember. What does the Bad Place train serve in its food car?
Oh, fuck. Isn't one of them like room temperature New England clam chowder?
You're really close.
Turkey Manhattan?
No, you're less close. You were really close.
New England clam chowder. What is it? I don't know.
Room temperature Manhattan clam chowder.
Damn, I was, see, Turkey Manhattan. And you're like, you're really far away. Yeah, I was still close.
Well, I was just thinking of what a Turkey Manhattan is and what clam chowder is and how they have very, very little in common.
It's true. What is the name of the restaurant at which Chidi and Uzo eat? I have a preposition at the end of that.
I think I remember this from going through my questions earlier today. Is this the one that was eating Nemo?
You bet your ass it is.
You're damn Skippy. What is Tahani's favorite British sitcom, and how long did it run?
Isn't like...
I want to hear your guess, for sure.
Ingrid and Maeve, or like Deborah and Dinsby, or like Margaret and Denise, Daria, Delphi.
I don't think you're gonna get it.
Doofenshmirtz?
Before I tell you what it is, give me a guess on how long it ran.
For like 8 years, 3 seasons. There's like 15 episodes. 8 episodes.
You remember the bit for sure. It's Deidre. And Margaret, which you said Margaret. You got that one right. It ran for 16 years, which is nearly 30 episodes.
Nice.
Are you done?
No, I have more for you.
Well, you paused.
I'm just looking into
Mr.
your eyes, Zach. God
host.
damn it. Let me love you the way I want to.
Okay.
What was Glenn's favorite meal?
It was soup, but I don't remember what kind. Was it a lentil soup? No. But it was a soup. I remember it's really good soup, and it's good that they're refrigerating it when he gets sucked into the sinkhole. But I don't remember what kind of soup.
It's a chicken soup that saved over 10,000 lives.
Sure. That was half a point, I think.
Well, you got that it was soup.
But that's
not the type of soup or what it did.
But
so
I sure had the context. Context.
Well, sure, I got Margaret and I got the bit.
And I
did I
gave
get
you
any points
half
for that
a
one?
fucking point, Steven.
Oh, you did? I'll give you a third of a point for this one. 33.333 continued %.
Give me a half or Rosalind gets it.
She's got 3 cats at home.
What does Janet know now to hate? She learned how to hate. What does she hate?
Genocide.
It's in there. You know it. Look in your heart. You know it to be true. You don't got it. Leggings is pants.
Leggings is pants.
Which we
Could
came
not
out as
disagree
pro.
more.
We're pro legging is
Yeah,
pants.
pro leggings is pants. What are pears a symbol of in Chinese culture?
Pears are actually, it's a bad thing of great disrespect.
No, you were closer when you said a bad thing. It's bad luck.
Bad luck. Okay. How did Mindy die? Mindy St. Clair.
Oh, shit. She fell on the third rail of the New York subway.
Which did what to her? Yes, electrocuted.
She electrocuted her, yeah. How long did Michael predict he could keep the ruse going?
10,000 years? 1,000 years.
1,000 years.
1,000
You
years.
got it.
I did the same thing last week when we talked about it. How many points are in Michael's plan?
14 million?
Good job.
Hell yeah. Look at us getting last week's questions.
As always, a mixed performance when it comes to the trivia.
Right? I've got one more for you, Zach.
Okay, I'll take it.
Who was Tahani's godmother?
Oprah Winfrey?
Ooh, Princess Diana.
Princess Diana. Who
An early
many
Tahani
could
flex.
say was the Oprah Winfrey,
of her time.
I've heard that said by many. So,
Nice,
Rosalind, you can take the
Yeah, tally that up.
You can ungag your mouth for a second after I tied you up and doused you with gasoline when Steven wouldn't give me a point for the soup. And take down whatever I just said. We're going to move into the next thing where we're going to talk about the highs and lows of the season by talking about our top 5 and bottom 3 episodes out of the 13 episodes this season on The Good Place. Let's start with our bottom 3 episodes and let's shotgun it. Give me your third worst episode of The Good Place season 1.
So this is an episode that I like. I want to preface by saying I like
kind of all are, aren't
3
they?
of these episodes.
Yeah.
I just went with the ones that, for me, did the least upon reevaluation. My number 3 is going to be What's My Motivation?
Okay.
I think it's kind of buying time, stretching out things until stuff happens. It precedes a really strong final run of episodes, and I think does it a disservice.
There are a couple episodes in that section that are totally fine, but a little time wasty. My third worst episode is actually going to be the second episode of the series, Flying, which I think after a stellar first episode that asks so many questions, this one's about picking up trash and about Eleanor being a bad designated driver. The first episode asks so many big universe questions, and this episode, it does what it has to do, which is take us into the flow of how these episodes are going to more feel week by week, but does feel like kind of a come down after the high of the first episode. So it's my number 3 worst episode.
My number 2 is going to be Flying for all those reasons and the fact that, it just doesn't feel totally complete without Jason yet.
Sure. It takes a while for those characters to come in. And honestly, that's maybe one of my biggest complaints this season is that characters like Tahani and Jason specifically don't get the time that I want for them.
Yeah.
My number 2, my second worst episode of the season, kind of along the lines of your What's My Motivation. I went with Someone Like Me as a member as my number
fair.
2. Again, like Steven said, I don't really hate any of these episodes. I complained a lot in these episodes that the time is ticking down. A decision has to be made on if Eleanor belongs in the good place or the bad place. And in this episode, real Eleanor Cheaty, Eleanor and Trevor go out to dinner together.
Yeah.
And the other subplot is Michael trashing Tahani's place because he's a pushover to the bad place people. It's just such a big moment in the season, and now in hindsight we know why they're wasting time because that's literally their job. But this is one of those episodes that's almost a chore to get through because of the time wasty. That's my number 2.
My number 1 bottom episode of the season, and again, not an episode I dislike. There are parts that I think of very fondly about this episode, but I'm going to go with Category 5 Emergency Doomsday Crisis.
55. Category 55.
Are you sure about that?
I'm looking at it right now.
Are you sure
on
about
Wikipedia.
that's why?
Yes.
You're positive?
Couldn't
Well,
be more
that's
positive.
embarrassing.
I've never been more positive about anything in my entire life.
Wow. I'm gonna go. I'm sorry. Sorry for wasting your time. Don't want to make you have the worst day you've ever had. Category 55. I'll change it in my notes.
Sure.
Emergency
That's important.
Doomsday
Rosalind.
Crisis. I think the sinkhole thing is one of the parts of the season that doesn't do a ton for me. This is another episode where everybody's stuck inside. You have the marriage counselor stuff, and I like that. It's just is not giving me the same amount of joy and excitement that a lot of other episodes do. So in a very strong season, this is the weakest link for me.
The sinkhole is a cool opportunity because I remember seeing something like Glenn falls into it. What happens when you fall into a sinkhole in the afterlife? Where do you go? The next episode is just a bottle episode of them hiding from it. It doesn't deal with that. I would have loved a subplot of like excavating the sinkhole.
Exactly.
And ending up in a weird place because you fall through it. My number one is actually Jason Mendoza, the fourth episode of the show. We all know how I feel about Chef Patricia.
Yeah, you don't fuck with Chef Patricia.
The main reason that I picked this episode is the other reason why I didn't like it that much is because it feels like the characters don't learn or change in the course of this episode. In a show that every episode like ends with someone making a decision that shows a small little bit of growth on their side. In this episode, like I remember complaining, Tahani starts the episode one way and starts the next episode the same exact way. Yeah. And she's in a lot of the episode and she doesn't really do anything. Meanwhile, the restaurant opening, it just all feels a little... It felt like a regular sitcom episode. Plot line about this restaurant opening with just a couple of tiny good place things. And that's not enough for me. Not a bad episode. There's not a bad episode this season. But Jason Mendoza, my number one.
So the only one we had in common there was the flying.
Which is a fine episode.
Yeah, fine episode. Nothing wrong with it.
Now we're going to move on to our top 5 episodes of This Good Place.
And as per usual,
yes,
I think we both are in agreement with this. We went with our top 5 favorites, not necessarily what we think are the best, correct?
Yeah, and this show is a little bit harder to do that with than Community, the last one we did, because it's easy to point to certain plot lines or certain homage episodes that really sing in that. Where in this, like, a mind-blowing moment in an episode does not, for me, equal a great episode of television if the rest of it isn't that good.
Agreed.
And that does show in my list, I think. So I'm excited to get into what we have.
Yeah. Why don't you start this one, Zach?
My number 5 is actually, and I kind of like this episode more than I thought I did. My number 5 is going to be Chidi's Choice, the Love Circle episode. And a big, big reason why is because that's the Jason and Janet wedding episode. And the craziness at the end of that episode where Chidi is learning all of this information that Janet and Jason are getting married and in true love. And he's like, what? What is some of my favorite moments of the first season. In this episode, Michael's plan to get all of them to torture each other is really working in this love triangle situation, partly by Eleanor, real Eleanor's choices, like our Eleanor, I mean, and the other part by Michael's doing with the person playing real Eleanor. I think it's a really good episode that even if it's a little sitcom-y to have the love triangle, the Jason and Janet stuff and the way Chidi is being tortured in this episode. And I also think that's the episode where we get the Uzo flashback, and we learn how Chidi died. That's my number 5.
That's also my
Chidi's
number
Choice.
5, Zach. I think it's a really... I really like it. I love the Chidi flashbacks. I think the Jason Janet wedding is just so funny. And it's also so sweet. And we said it when we talked about the episode, but that becomes maybe my favorite through line of the whole series.
Jason and Janet?
Yeah, I think it's so surprisingly perfect. And I didn't know I needed it, but I'm so glad that I have it.
One of those classic Good Place things that comes out of nowhere, feels totally random, but then you learn nothing in the show is random. It's there for a reason, and it works way better than it ever should have. My number 4 is going to be Mindy St. Clair, the penultimate episode of the season. I really like how this episode expands the world of the show that's been kept into a small neighborhood, gives us a glimpse of now knowing the twist of a real thing that really happened of this girl in the medium place. I really like the way that Mindy's behavior and lifestyle leads Eleanor to make the right choice. And I also like the tension of Eleanor stole the train, and if they don't make their decision to come back, Chidi and Tahani get sent to the bad place. I think it's a good episode that sets up the last episode so well and expands the world and is funny and is tense in the best way that I love from The Good Place. So Mindy St. Clair, number 4.
My number 4 is, and this surprised me when I was going through the episodes.
Okay.
Tahani Al-Jamil. is going to be my number 4 choice.
Okay,
I think
take me there.
we get the excellent Jason reveal at the end of the episode.
Mm-hmm.
We get the different Janets, like when she's being like the sexual Janet and the fun fact Janet. I think that's so funny. I love Janet, love Darcy Carden. And we get some Tahani flashback a little bit to learn a little bit more about her. And I think she's a character that even throughout the whole first season doesn't necessarily get as much as we want of her.
Agreed.
But with what we do get, she's fantastic. And I think this is the first time we get to kind of see into her psyche a bit and learn about her life and find out more about her. And I think it's a really strong episode that I think picks up the pace and kind of picks up where the first episode
totally
left off energy-wise.
Has a big twist at the end, keeps you going. Totally. Well said. My number 3 is gonna be the pilot.
Nice.
I think it's easy to forget because in the pilot, we truly don't know anything about the world of this show. How when you first saw that pilot, it did present this incredible new world that you just wanted to learn about. And it's easy to be removed from it now at the end of season 1. But this incredibly dynamic struggle of Eleanor is not supposed to be here. And is she going to tell anybody? Is she going to get caught? All these bad things are happening. What would I do? It like inserts you into it. What would I do if I was in heaven and I had to keep this secret? The pilot does that so well while also introducing all of these good place ideas that shouldn't make any sense, but are presented in a way that make perfect sense, complete sense. My number 3 is the pilot.
The pilot did not make my top 5, but it really, really, really almost did. I think it's one of my favorite TV pilots. Like if I'm making my list, it's up there. My number 3 is gonna be Mindy St. Clair. I think Mindy St. Clair as a character is really funny. You touched on all the points that make that episode great. I also love how at the beginning you really are questioning, like, okay, well, I thought Eleanor was doing this really selfless thing, so she should get to stay. And then you're like, oh, but she also just did a bad thing the first opportunity that she had. I think that Jason's Bortles, when he throws the Molotov cocktail at the train, doesn't work. It's so funny, and they build the anticipation great. And like you said, it sets up the finale as perfectly as you possibly can. In volleyball, you have the bump, you have the set, and then you have the spike. And the set is just as important as the
if not more
spike.
than.
See, exactly. So great episode. Number 3, Mindy St. Clair for me.
My number 2.
Are we gonna have the same top 2?
I don't know. Are we? I hope so. That'd be fun. My number 2 is the season finale, Michael's Gambit, and it has one of the best moments in a sitcom ever. One of the best twists in modern television history. It's just that I think rewatching the season does do this episode a disservice because that big moment is halfway through the episode, and then it spends the rest of the episode explaining things that now we've known to watch as we're watching through the season. Not that episode's fault. That's why it was so effective when it first came out, because we needed those things to be explained to us. And that's why it's still my number 2, because it's not really that episode's fault, but because of this rewatch, because of how I felt on this rewatch, that's where it landed for me at my number 2, which is still pretty good in such a stellar season of television. Michael's Gambit is my number 2. What about you?
Michael's Gambit is also my number 2.
Is it the same? Do we have the same number 1?
Maybe. It's one of my favorite episodes of the show.
Okay.
I think that Michael's reveal is so perfect, and Ted Danson just captures that character so well. It's just a bone-chilling moment, and like you said, it does do it a disservice having seen it before, but I remember seeing this the first time and being absolutely, like, flabbergasted. I mean, I really pride myself on being that asshole that knows how a movie's going to end well before it does, and even mystery movies, I'm like, I got it figured out. I picked it up.
Sure.
No fucking clue on this one until this episode. I think that it's just so good. I really have so much admiration for all the work and intention behind this.
Yes.
And it speaks to how good the rest of the show is. And I remember literally before the second season started, when you would, I think, because I don't know if you introduced me to the show, but we definitely talked about it a lot, because I don't think I had finished it by the time that we saw the first season. And I remember being like, what the hell are they going to do from here? And I remember the excitement that we felt going through this show together in real time. And it just brought back all those excited feelings. And
totally.
And
in one moment, just in Eleanor, like switching her face and being like, wait a minute. You just instantly feel like euphoria.
Yeah. It's great. So cool.
So my number 1 is the Eternal Shriek. I really love this episode, and the beach scene around the button, Janet begging to be spared, showing the picture of her kids and just as easily snapping out of it to being like, no, this is real. I am just programmed to do this. Mixed with Chidi's intense unease and indecisiveness, mixed with Eleanor's problem that needs to be solved that fuels all of this, mixed with Jason's just dumb, flighty press a button that he sees. It's one of my favorite moments in the entire series. And the whole episode is great because then it becomes the attention, I have been murdered, and the who murdered Janet of it all. This episode is the first, like, what the fuck is the show? They can do anything, and they can the rules are starting from scratch, and they can make any rules that they want. They can make up any kind of history for, like, we would have never thought about the Janets being like rebooted, or I don't know. It just opens up the world of the show before the big twist. It opens up the world of the show in weirdness and in concept, and I think it's just such an amazing episode that when we watched it for this rewatch, that whole segment of the episode, I was laughing out loud the whole time, every time I watched it. It's a really, really great episode that reminds you that, first and foremost, this is a hilarious comedy show.
Yeah, I think my number was Eternal Shriek as well. Wow. It's in my top 5 of the whole show, if not higher.
And I thought I was being kind of daring by putting that as my number 1 over Michael's Gambit, honestly.
Yeah, which I think most people probably think of Michael's Gambit as one of the best episodes of the show, which it is.
Sure.
But it's
so is the Eternal Shriek.
Funny.
Yeah.
The whole scene on the beach is perfect. Perfect performance, perfect writing. Janet is, arguably my favorite character in the whole show. And this is one of the first times that you get to see just how funny Darcy Carden is, and
that there's no end.
He plays so well off of it, and the guilt that he feels, like you said, Jason. This episode also has like depressed Michael, who's gonna be tortured for eternity, and he's all sad boy, and it's really funny. And this episode's just perfect to me. I
could
episode
watch it
where
he says, "This is a canyon of poo-poo."
Yes, yes. I just think it's so good. I love this episode, and I laugh so hard every time I watch it, and it just brings me so much joy.
Well, we're in agreement. The top 2 episodes of the season are the Eternal Shriek and Michael's Gambit.
We had 4 of our top 5 in line.
Chidi's Choice, Mindy St. Clair, not in the same spot.
Not in the same spot for
but
Mindy
4
St.
out of
Clair,
5 we picked together. What was the episode that you included that I didn't? Oh,
Tahani
Al
Jamil. And you were the pilot. Mm-hmm.
Well, there it is. That's our top and bottom of a great season of television that just works. Just flat out, top to bottom works. And is setting up the even better season 2 that I'm so excited to start next week. Before we get out of here, the last thing that we're going to do is tabulate the points. All season, we've been deciding at the end of every episode who, based on the actions of that episode, deserves to go to the good place and the bad place. And much like in the afterlife presented to us in the good place, we've been keeping track of those points. And based off those points, we're about to determine who, based off of this season as a whole, has maybe earned their spot in the good place and has definitely earned their spot in the bad place. Yeah. I've got the data in front of me, Steven. You're not privy to it yet. Going into this, do you have any ideas of this person's going to be near the top of the list, this person's going to be near the bottom of the list?
Chidi's going to be towards the top. If I were to pick like a season MVP, it would probably be Chidi.
And let's do that. Chidi, you think an MVP, just entertainment value, character performance, actions and consequences for them taken completely out of it. It's Chidi for you?
I think so. The only person that I could kind of argue in his stead would be Michael, because I think it's the mastermind behind it. But if I'm thinking every single episode, consistency and who shined through, Michael has a couple of incredible moments, and I think as like what's actually happening with the character, Michael is the mastermind, the MVP of this season. But in terms of who I think had the through every episode consistency, it'd be Chidi for me.
Well, then I'm not going to say Michael, actually. I'm going to change on the seat of my pants, and mine's Eleanor. Because she's our window into this world. She's the character that we can see ourselves in, and she's our key to it all, especially in this first season. Her character is so important to rooting all of this in something before it just breaks open next season. And sure, Eleanor is always kind of the main character, but not so much like she is in this first season.
Exactly. The first season especially is an Eleanor season.
Let's talk about the points. Every time Steven and I give someone a good place ranking, they get 100 points. Every time we give someone a bad place ranking, they lose 100. And if we ever give it out to two official good place and bad place, they each get or lose 50 points. We've determined that anyone who ends up with a negative point value is just automatically going to the bad place.
Yeah.
Because honestly, who goes into the good place is a very, very small number. Even people with point values most likely end up in the bad place.
Now here's my question.
Sure.
Zach, I
Go ahead.
think, are we going to evaluate this with the current good place system where we are in the show? Or are we going to go with a more, tender, compassionate good place scale?
Well,
I do have a suggestion.
if I'm being honest, it doesn't really matter.
Sure.
Because the points start from scratch at the beginning of season 2.
Yeah, they do.
So I'll take your suggestion. Let's hear it.
I think anyone negative goes bad place.
Yes.
Anyone at a staunch 0 goes medium place. Maybe we could do like 0 to 100, medium place.
Well, let's hear the list and let's discuss.
Yeah, let's see what I have no idea what the points are, Zach.
Yeah.
They could be in the thousands
Okay.
for all I know.
So let's talk about who's going to the bad place
Mm-hmm.
with a negative point value, starting with the highest negative point value to the lowest. At negative 50 points, Mindy St. Clair, she's going to the bad place.
Ooh, Mindy.
Negative 100 points. This one was really fun to track because it went up, it went down, it went way down, and then it came back up. Our Eleanor, based off of season 1
she was
alone,
close. Too bad
negative
for her.
100 points, she's going to the bad place.
Going to the bad place.
Also negative 100 points is Eleanor's old boss, the man who
Nice.
runs the Nasapro office and the man who wants to be talked to his coworkers as if he's a worm. Negative 100
hilarious.
points for him. Negative 100 points also going to the bad place is Teacup, the AI dog who gets kicked into the sun.
Yeah, fuck Teacup.
Bad place.
Bad dog.
Also, our last negative 100 point total goer is Bomba John.
Bomba John.
For his unwanted, unconsensual hug.
Sure.
Going to the bad
It's bad
place.
behavior.
Now there's a little bit of a gap, and there are 3 point totals that really point towards the bad place, starting with negative 300 points going to Trevor,
Mm-hmm. I knew he was
who
gonna be down
is
there.
the face of the bad place.
Yeah,
so of
he's
course
like the
he goes to the
mascot.
bad place. And then tied with the most negative points at negative 450 points from throughout season 1 is one Jason Mendoza
Ooh.
and one Michael.
Wow, I didn't think Jason was going to be that far down.
was pretty
I figured
bad.
he would be bad place, but he
He got a lot of flack throughout the season for what he was doing to Tahani.
Yeah, that's fair. He was torturing her.
Let's talk about the people who ended up in the positive and talk
Yeah.
about if they really earned
Nobody
a spot
at
in
a
the
crisp
good place.
0?
No zeros. We've got 5 that are at 100 or higher, starting with our 2 at 100. And this is hard because I wrote these pre-twist, right? This is kind of pre-twist because at 100 points we've got Glenn.
Ooh.
We know that he's a demon. Does that
But
take
did
him
he
out?
behave badly?
Not really. Maybe
No.
annoyingly, but he behaved
He didn't
well.
hurt
He
anybody.
saved people with his soup. He was always happy to help. He ended up on Eleanor's side.
Yeah.
But the twist happens in this season. He's a demon. We
He's a
just didn't
demon.
have the time to rate him accordingly throughout episodes. I don't think he goes to the good place.
No, I'm fine sending Glenn to the medium place.
Likewise, at 100 points is real Eleanor. And that's really tough because all season as real Eleanor, she is incredible. She's understanding. She's there. She's present. She's kind. She's not at all demeaning anybody. But now we know that she's Vicky and it was all intentional. There is no real Eleanor.
No.
So what do? Do we say that real Eleanor, the non-existent character, goes to the good place, but Vicky does not?
They're one and the same, Zach. We can't separate them. If we're not, I think that Glenn and Vicky both go to the medium
They're
place.
in limbo. They're in limbo.
Yeah.
Next, we've got 200 points. This was kind of up and down, but landing at 200 points is Tahani Al-Jamil.
Nice. Good for Tahani. Tahani has pretty good behavior this season.
But I don't know that she has yet earned her spot in the good place because she hasn't completely yet come to terms with what she did to get to the bad place in the first place.
Not until the last episode does she come to that realization, but she does come to that realization.
I think by end of the series, sure, she deserves to go to the good place.
No,
but I don't
last
think we're
episode of
there
the first
yet.
season. She's
I know,
like,
I know,
oh,
I
it
know,
means
I know.
nothing.
I don't think it's enough to get her into the good place
Wow.
yet.
Harsh,
But
Zach.
you do.
200 points, Zach?
But we've got quite a bit of a gap between the 200 to the next two.
Well, who else is in the 200 range?
Nobody.
Just Tahani.
Up next, we've got 2 people left. At 350 points, we've got Janet.
Janet goes straight to the Good Place.
Who belongs in the Good Place.
Yeah.
She's from the Good Place.
Yeah, she's a Good Place.
No questions asked. And up from Janet with 600 points.
Best boy.
Is Cheaty, of course.
Cheaty.
Who, sure, he did create unease and unhappiness in the people in his life.
But he helped everyone in the Good Place.
Yeah, and his wrongdoings are very small compared to everybody else. He has earned a spot in the Good Place. And I think other than Janet, I think he's the only human character that truly...
So do we send Tahani the medium place with Vicky and Glenn?
Yeah, she'll get another try next season.
Okay, she's sitting there then.
You're not sure about it. You think she goes to the Good Place.
I think that Tahani just scrapes in.
There's a lot of growth. I think she just scrapes out.
Well, you scrape her out, I'll scrape her in.
How about we rock, paper, scissors for the soul of Tahani Al-Jamil?
Okay, obviously rock, paper, scissors, shoot, right?
Rock, paper, scissors, shoot, sure.
Okay.
And if there's a lag because of Zoom, we'll stick with what we say. We won't change.
I'll shake on that.
All right.
Okay.
Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Scissors cuts paper. Tahani, you can see my hand
for shit.
I did paper. Scissors cuts paper. Tahani goes to the Good Place this season.
What if they settled every dispute like that for who's going to heaven or hell? I'd be down with that. It's a true game of skill with a little bit of chance thrown in.
Well, Steven, I think we rounded this table. I think we talked about season 1 top to bottom, and I'm happy with it. We've put it to bed. We've recapped what we got from recapping the first season, and I feel so renewed and so excited to be back here next week to talk about the first episode of season 2.
I am giddy.
I can't wait. I want you guys to be a part of our season 2. So email us, timeknifepod@gmail.com. Send in your trivia questions and who goes to the good and bad place for you in the season 2 episodes, timeknifepod@gmail.com. Also, support us on Patreon if you like what we do here. Patreon.com/can'tdisappointpodcast. Get our live weekly pre-show, get the basement, and get early access to this show and Brokeback Bebop, which you'll be able to hear for free every week beginning 4/20, wherever you get your podcast. Brokeback Bebop. Steven, where else can the people find us?
If you want to earn more points and end up in our good places, heyo, then come follow us over on Twitter and Instagram over at TimeKnifePod. See the video companion to this podcast over on YouTube. Search the name of the show. Oh, nice. I just noticed that.
Nobody would know. I thought it was perfect timing to bring it back.
Yeah,
everything is fine. Everyone, it has been so much fun recapping the season for you. I can't wait to get into the next 3. Thank you for listening to us, for making us a part of your weekly routine. We're very grateful that you're listening to us, and we hope to hear from you.
Yeah, ring a ding ding. Send us a smoke signal. We'll interpret it. We'll read it on the show.
For the last time for season 1, get us on out of here.
From inside the time knife, Black Lives Matter.
I'm Zach.
I'm Steven.
And we will see you next season.
Peace.
When you